2026. I think this is going to be a very interesting year. There's been a lot of information come out about the fraud and wasteful spending and abuse and election unintegrity. So I'm looking forward to that. Here we are tonight on January 1st, 2026, in the year of our Lord. So we have some great information for you tonight. Even though it's a holiday, there's still news pumping out there, and I'm happy to share it with you. Let's click over here at Murtech on Rumble. This is my Rumble channel. This is the video we're going over this evening, episode 1794, and you're a part of it. Let me go ahead and jump into that. Pause this. Close out the live chat. Let me slide down here and open the description box. Click the Show More button to expand that out. We've got information from ACLJ, Sekulow, American Center for Law and Justice, Awaken With JP, an interesting segment there on Nick Shirley, X22 Report, and Wendy Bell Radio. Okay, but before we get into that, I do need to give a bunch of shout-outs. I didn't have time to put some of the shout-outs in from yesterday, so I got 2 days worth of shout-outs. 10 Dal just started following my channel. T. Carlton just started following my channel. Dalger1 just started following my channel. Ms. Chum Maker just started 8491, sorry. She's the 8,491st Ms. Chum Maker out there. So she followed my channel. Also, Kittenhead just started following my channel. TAJ just started following my channel. So thank you very much, folks, for following my channel. I greatly appreciate that. I hope you're tuned in tonight, and I hope you enjoy the content. Okay, coming down here, Fishers 45 and Cotton Ball 31 commented on my daily news wrap-up from last night. Debbie BS reposted my episode 1792. JC Froat 11 commented on my episode 1791. Uncloudy and Debbie BS reposted my episode 1793. Foxy Grandma, Cannonball 31, and Jeanette J66 commented on my episode 1792. Linda commented on my extra 574C. Debbie BS commented on my extra 575A and 575B and 575C. And Cotton Ball 31 commented on my extra 576C. So thank you very much, folks, for your comments and reposting my video. I enjoy reading your feedback, and I certainly appreciate your support. So let me give this a thumbs up. Boom, there it is. It's just that easy, and if you look right below the video here that you're watching, just right below that, here's a thumbs up icon there, and I've got 6 thumbs up already, and I just started. I've only got 5 people watching, but I got 6 thumbs up. It's like magic, I'm telling you. So if you haven't given me a thumbs up already, please do so. Okay, well, let's get into this. American Center for Law and Justice, Sekulow clip, lawmakers come forward and call for Walz resignation. Oh, okay. We'll see if that happens. Let's see what they have to say about it, though.
The gift that keeps on giving, the fraud that keeps on frauding, Will, and that is out of the state of Minnesota, of course, we're talking about.
Normally, you don't have news like this that's moving in real time at the end of the year. But what we have now is that the Health and Human Services Agency is freezing all funds going to Minnesota that relates to childcare, and that is annually about $185 million. So they're freezing that in response to what we're seeing as more and more questions around this fraud grows, as well as we're seeing a lot of people speaking out, calling for the governor to resign. This includes a group of more than 10 members of the Minnesota House and Senate, as well as the Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, Tom Emmer, who is the House Majority Whip in the United States Congress, And then you also have the Minnesota Republican chairman for the party there that is calling for him to resign as well. In a joint statement signed by some of the members of the state legislature, they even cite Article 8, Section 6 of the Minnesota Constitution, which deals with recalls. So they do have in their state a way that you can recall a governor. They're saying that he falls clearly within the grounds for recall under the state constitution. They're saying at this time they're not launching a recall effort, which is expensive, takes time, not always successful. But they're saying he should do the right thing. He falls under this category and should just resign from office. I don't think, based off the statements we're hearing from the governor, that will happen. But we also know that the U.S. Congress and the House Oversight Committee will be having hearings on fraud in Minnesota. Next week, the 7th of January, will be the very first of those hearings. They are also trying to get Governor Walz to come before the committee voluntarily. I have a feeling, if not, they may try to use other routes like a subpoena to try and get him on the record as the House does their oversight duty. This was also interesting, and I think it goes to a broader thing that we're talking about here, because remember, we were originally talking about COVID money fraud, and there was that big case, Feeding Our Future, $250 million just from one group. That was when the fraud was only at $1 billion that they were saying was taken in Minnesota. And a lot of that had to do with COVID money. A lot of it had to do with Medicaid fraud in other areas, not necessarily with the child care. But that was one angle of it. Then we see this viral video that goes around. And once again, we should also caution people that when you see this, it is raising questions, but it also, you have to be reserved. Remember, this is one person doing an independent report. And in many of the places that don't want to talk to him, that doesn't necessarily mean that each and every daycare center is a fraudulent operation. So just be careful on that. But it does appear there is a bigger problem in Minnesota. We know that there had been some convictions in this back in 2018. But what we've also seen from the governor of Minnesota is it almost seemed like they got a few convictions and would just say, okay, we're good,
done,
we can move
up.
on, when this is a widespread problem, especially when you think about what we heard and we played yesterday from the U.S. attorney, assistant U.S. attorney, Joe Thompson, that said the fraud is not small. It's not isolated. The magnitude cannot be overstated. It is not a handful of bad actors committing crimes. It's a staggering industrial scale fraud. So then he was saying that it was close to $9 billion in fraud. Then you start to hear this story about the daycare centers, which there had already been problems with, but then there's more than that. We also know that, and this is something that hasn't been talked about a lot, but over a week ago, the Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, had sent a letter to the governor of Minnesota about another angle of fraud that even since she came to office in 2025, they have uncovered what they call 1,834 ghost students, which are effectively not real people. Okay, there's no identification. A lot of times it's not a real person. Sometimes these people don't even live in the United States. But what they do is they are able to siphon off federal dollars that go to the state for college tuitions, things like that, education monies, and that these 1,834 ghost students have stolen around $12.5 million in taxpayer-funded grants and loans. So then there's a college angle to this. What we are seeing is that this is an industrial operation of fraud within the state of Minnesota, and that the governor trying to say, look, we handled the cases, move on here, isn't helping. But what is trying to help him is the left. Right now, we are seeing across social media, as happens when a big story happens, the marching orders go out and the talking points are laid down. And what we're seeing now is people saying the daycare fraud was from 2018 and 2 people were convicted. And so this is an old story, move along.
Old stories from the conservative press.
They're trying to say it's spent. When you look at what it was, and they're assuming that no one's going to look at that YouTube video and not watch it. And they're like, oh, I've heard there was fraud. It was from a YouTube video. He shows the footage of 2018 that led to this. That is the basis of the starting point of his investigation, saying this is what has happened. But did it end? And that's where the individual, the independent YouTuber journalist, is going around trying to do more investigations and raise the questions, something that the administration in Minnesota clearly does not want to do, has not done. And I tend to think that the U.S. attorney that is looking into this, that says it is industrial, it is staggering, it is swamping Minnesota and calling into question everything we know about our state. I think that should put to bed any of those spin that this is old news, nothing to see here, move along, that this is a real problem in Minnesota.
Yeah, clip that, as they say. Send that to your friends who are posting things like that, who are just simply sharing a meme that they don't know the background about that. Because look, I even texted Will. I said, this is the spin. What's the response? And then he laid that out essentially exactly like that for me, is saying, here's what they're saying. Here's why we know that's not true. And here's why we know it's spin.
Even what Doge did at the beginning of the term, where you'd see how just that it was blank checks just going out. Like there was no accountability. People applying for grants, requesting it, and just getting it, especially if they were a left-leaning group. That it may not even be that some people, Derek, are criminally contributing to the fraud in the state government, where they think we know these people are not really a daycare center, or they are not really feeding families when all these grants that they're asking for, all this COVID money relief that they're getting. But what they're not doing is just negligence. They aren't doing any due diligence to see if these are even real organizations or real people, or that they're checking on the back end. Is this actually feeding people? A lot of it, the people are just filling out the paperwork. And that was how some of these early daycare centers got caught, is that they were people going in, filling out paperwork for children and then taking the children away. And they were getting a kickback for that. That was what was convicted in 2018. So I think that's the big problem too, is that in many states and at the federal level as well, and hopefully some of that's getting cleaned up, but there's a long way to go, is that all of these checks on the system are just almost non-existent when it comes to giving taxpayer dollars away.
All right, well, I think they pretty much got that covered. Let me go ahead and click on the Rumble link here and show you that this video does come from American Center for Law and Justice. I'm following their channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back here. Hi, Debbie BS. Join me in the chat. Okay, let's slide down here and see what Awaken with JP has to say about Nick Shirley. Defeats Somali pirates by himself. Amazing. Let's check it out.
We'd like to ask where the money's going. What do you guys think about the fraud that's taking place here in Minnesota?
So how does a YouTuber, not the FBI, not the CIA, but how does a YouTuber named Nick Shirley take down a $9 billion fraud ring in Minnesota run by mildly retarded pirates? Which, by the way, that phraseology is accurate. I'll prove that to you in this video and also tell you how Nick Shirley did it. It's amazing. Welcome back to the JP Rex channel, my freedom-loving friend. This is where we help spread the light of truth and freedom, because truth conquers. Now, truth seeker of the day, he has my utmost respect, Nick Shirley. He has taken down, or exposed, so hopefully it will be taken down, the estimated $9 billion fraud ring in Minnesota, where Somalians are stealing taxpayer money. And amongst other things, they're sending some of it back to Somali terrorist organizations, and even worse yet, using some of those funds to fund Democrat politicians right there in Minnesota. It's all very dangerous. Now, the first question before we get to how did he do it, and why is it actually accurate to call the fraudsters a ring of mildly retarded pirates? So before we get to that, the question is, how did this happen? Under the watchful eye of Tim Walz, how can these Somalians steal $9 billion of taxpayer money? Well, let's cut to a piece of footage that explains the whole thing of how Somali fraud could take over Minnesota. And this is basically how it happened. White liberals saying, yeah, wash my hands and face in cow piss. That makes sense. You're Somalian. We want you here. Yeah, you do this. Cool. We want that here. Let's fund you. And you support us. But whatever. I mean, so Nick Shirley, the guy who exposed all this, by the way, the FBI has acknowledged, like, we've seen Nick Shirley's video and we're pursuing these investigations. I've seen videos of FBI boots on the ground in some of these fraudulent daycare facilities that were cool. They don't have kids there, but they have the $8 million in funding for daycare. Just no kids. That's part of the fine print. So point is, Nick Shirley goes to Minnesota to expose all this. And did he expose it. This is going to be 120 million views. And by the way, this is a 42-minute long video. This isn't like a cat getting electrocuted video that takes 5 seconds. Wow, that's awesome to see. Let me share that with my friends. This is a 42-minute video with 120 million views. This makes the exposing unstoppable. It wasn't the FBI that exposed this. The FBI tried to take credit. They're like, yeah, we were pursuing some of that same stuff. Yeah. FBI, watch out, because if you're not careful, Nick Shirley's going to get his hands on the Epstein case and really expose it. Then you'll have to really pretend that you're on the case. But nonetheless, with 120 million views, because one, he does great work, and two, he has the courage to do it, goes there, boots on the ground. This makes it like you can't ignore it. No journalist outlets, CNN, with hundreds of millions of dollars of funding behind them, they didn't do this, nor would they want to. But the point is, one guy with a camera did this, and it's incredible. And before we get to the fun part, Tim Walz did have to respond to Nick Shirley's journalistic efforts. So did Tim Walz say, boy, I'm glad you uncovered fraud in my state? Did he say, gosh, that shouldn't happen here? Here's what Tim Walz said.
This is what happens when they target communities for their own benefit. This is what happens when they scapegoat. And this is what happens when they no longer hide the idea of white supremacy.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Tim Walz attributed Nick Shirley's investigative efforts, taking down a $9 billion fraud ring, as white supremacy. Because there was a bunch of Somalians doing it. So Tim Walz is like, okay, that's white supremacy. Well, Tim, that makes it sound like you're trying to cover it, like you want the fraud to happen. In just one day, Nick Shirley's efforts exposed $110 million of fraud, estimated to be $9 billion. But just in one day, he accounted for $110 million of fraudulent theft of taxpayer money. And Tim Walz says, I know what to call this. Guys, this looks like classic white supremacy. We've all seen the stories of the KKK and how they express their white supremacy is typically by exposing financial fraud rings, taxpayer fraud rings. It's just, you hate to see it. You hate to see that kind of white supremacy. We thought it died in the 1940s, but apparently Nick Shirley's keeping it alive, and Tim Walz has the eyes to recognize it, and he's not going to stand for it. So what Nick Shirley actually did was take down a $9 billion fraud scheme run by mildly retarded pirates. I am not trying to be mean when I say it that way. I like the way it sounds. Don't get me wrong. I think it's very amusing. I like it. But I phrase it that way because it's accurate. So let's get into some of the fun part, why that's accurate. Somalis are known for being pirates. And in fact, you can check this out. 10 insane facts you may not know about Somali pirates. Some of this, just pictures, fun to look at. Look at, they don't really dress like Johnny Depp in Pirates of the Caribbean. I think it'd be cooler if they did. But cultural differences, it's typically like face wraps, a Kmart shirt, then an AK-47. Here's what's interesting. Piracy has turned into Somali's largest source of income in recent years. These criminals bring in around $200 million annually for their nation. That is more than many businesses in America. In case you didn't get that, pirating that's the largest source of national income in Somalia. Would it be accurate to say it's a nation of pirates? Yes. You can't find a nation where that's more accurate. It is their national largest revenue generator. And it's hilarious. People love pirates. Kids love dressing up as pirates for Halloween. Pirates are hilarious. Yes, they steal. Yes, they kill. They do other things. But it's also just a fun concept. And then, of course, the world is shocked to find that legit pirates in Minnesota were doing what pirates do. They were pirating money. They were stealing. Like, how did you not see this coming? Like, they're pirates. Like, yeah, they didn't have boats. I realize that makes it really hard to recognize the pirating, but the pirates are doing what the pirates do, which is theft. Yes, I pictured them showing up to steal taxpayer money in a big boat with like a big wooden boat with sails and like a barrel of rum on it. And boy, I thought some of them would have peg legs and a hook hand here and there, classic eye patch. Shame on me for stereotyping against pirates, but let me accurately stereotype against Somalians and say, gosh, those pirates sure are doing pirate activities. Then if you noticed, a few times I said that these were mildly retarded pirates. So let's dissect how that is factually true so we can better understand how Nick Shirley stopped them. If you take a look at worldpopulationreview.com, you have this is a fun tool to use, ladies and gentlemen. Average IQ by country in 2025. Now, South Korea, Japan, 106. So now, all right, stereotypes but for Asians being smart, factually correct. That's beside the point. We'll get back to the video in just a second, but first, it is my favorite wellness company. I charge to stock up EP Reacts. If I'm smart enough to spell Somalia, which I am, you see that their average IQ in Somalia is 67.7. Well, some of us, that sounds high. And it is higher than most farm animals. But you'll have a hard time finding a lot of farm animals that have a higher IQ than 67.7. So let's go with this. I'm sure some have a higher IQ by the nature of averages. Some have a lower IQ there. And it's fine. We want these people in Minnesota. That's what we want. We want this kind of culture in Minnesota, apparently, is what we want. So the average IQ is 67.7. That's great. Then we can go on to a psychologydiscussion.net article, 4 levels of mental retardation. Now, I was investigating this, and here's what we found. Level 1 is mild mental retardation. It sounds like what I have. I don't think I actually qualify for this one. But what I learned was, wow, okay, you're considered a mild, not severe, a mildly mentally retarded person if your IQ is between 55 and 69. So 70 and lower, cool. Now, if you're lower than 55, you got some level 2 going on in you. Maybe level 3, maybe level 4. We're talking about level 1, mild mental retardation for folks, any ethnicity really, between 55 and 69. And one more time, in case we forgot, the average IQ in Somalia is 67.7. So on average, and they're pirates. So these are mildly retarded pirates. They managed to steal $9 billion. I think that's impressive. That's an impressive, I don't think I could do that. And I think my IQ's higher than 67.7. I easily come in at 71. I've been tested. I'm not any form of retarded. Barely. And I couldn't do that. I couldn't, how do I I don't know. Is it my morals that keep me from knowing how to steal $9 billion? Or is it just like I don't have the synaptic connections? I'm not bright in that way. Maybe. It's probably a fault of my own. But it is more impressive that a mildly retarded group of pirates were able to figure out how to steal $9 billion of taxpayer money.
Okay, I'm going to pause that there. He's got about 5 more minutes of this, then he goes into a commercial at the end. But if you'd like to hear more of this, the link is in the description box below. But I'm glad he straightened that out for me because I was curious about that, and I thought you might be curious about that as well. Little lightheartedness. So let me go ahead and click on the Rumble link here and show you that this video does come from Awaken with JP. I'm following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back here and see what we got next with X22 report. But before we get into that, I do want to share this first of the month, okay, share my statistics with you for Rumble Creator Program on the studio. Our stream so far this month, this is day 1. My objective is 30. I have 10 hours streamed so far this month. First day. Okay? Total unique chatters this month, 7. My requirement or my goal is 20. So the first day I had 7 new people. Now what unique chatters. Anyway, unique people that chat. That would mean I need a new person to chat. Let's see. I've got 18 people right now. I have 9 chats, or 7 chats so far this month. So, if I could get people out there that have not chatted on my channel so far this month, if you could just, throw me a hi or how you doing or, a thumbs up in the chat box, I would greatly appreciate it. Rumble Premium exclusive hours, I have 0, but I'm going to, probably after midnight, switch my daily news wrap-up to the premium, Rumble Premium, to get those 5 hours in. Hours watched this month, I need 200 is my goal. So far I have 122, first day. And total unique raids this month, I need 5. I've got 4, so I'll have that by tomorrow. And I'll share this with you tomorrow to give you the progress on what's going on. So remember, folks, if you're out there, I've got 18 people watching right now, give me a chat. Let me know how you're doing. Let me know if you like this. Let me know if you don't. Give me a thumbs up on the video and just give me a thumbs up or something in the chat box. Okay, X22 report, episode 3808B. People must see it to believe it. I think that's right for most people. 2026, Trump is ready to unleash hell on the deep state. I certainly hope so. Let's see what they have to say.
Chaos really ramps up. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, big tech fake news, the puppet masters, you can see that they are panicking. Their entire criminal syndicate is being exposed. And you could see piece by piece, the people are starting to learn what they've been doing and how the entire system actually.
Sorry about that, folks. Something screwed up on me here. Let's go ahead and start the X22 report. Here we go. I don't know what happened.
Collapse
Let's go.
political and geopolitical news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, big tech fake news, the puppet masters, you can see that they are panicking. Their entire criminal syndicate is being exposed. And you could see piece by piece, the people are starting to learn what they've been doing and how the entire system actually functions. Because again, they've been lying to we, the people, for a very, very long time. And this all goes back to the private was a central bank system. Where do you think all the money comes from? Remember, they'll create as much money as the criminals want. Because once again, the central bank is a criminal system. They're creating currency and they know, listen, our product is this currency. There's interest attached to it. So if you want more of it, fine, you just owe us. And you'll continue to owe us over time. And this is why the central bank and the deep state players work so well together, because they're both criminal enterprises. And now we're starting to learn that the fraud, the criminal system, is much, much deeper and wider than anyone could ever imagine. Now it's going state to state. And remember, it just doesn't have to do with daycare. It just doesn't have to do with Medicaid. It doesn't just have to do with SNAP. It has to do with far more than that. Think about Planned Parenthood. Think about all the programs that the deep state players created in USAID. Think about all the NGOs, something like 1.5 million NGOs in this country, and forget about the NGOs that are worldwide. This is one gigantic criminal money laundering system that they set up, and to protect their system, they make sure that they have the people in place. They make sure they have the prosecutors to protect them. They make sure they have the judges to protect them. They make sure they have those people in government offices who are allegedly elected by the people, which they're not. They're installed. They protect these people. They cover it up. Same thing in DC. So all these people, when we said they've been installed, they truly have been installed to protect the criminal syndicate. The FBI was put into place to protect the criminal syndicate. The DOJ was put into place to protect the criminal syndicate. DHS, CIA, you name it, all the agencies in DC to protect the criminal syndicate. And when they saw Trump come on the scene, they needed a way to make sure they protected the criminal syndicate. So what did they do? They overthrew a duly elected president to protect the criminal syndicate. They overthrew the United States government. They went against the will of the people. I don't think anyone's really surprised about this because they're criminals. And then what did the criminals do? They brought in more criminals to create chaos and to cheat in the elections and to cheat the system. So basically, the American people, they are slaves to the criminal system. Actually, when you look at this from a different point of view, and you look at the mafia who is controlling a town, all those businesses in the town, they are the slaves to the mafia. You are a slave to the criminal syndicate. You are a slave to the central bank system. Basically, every time they say taxes are due, please put up your protection money. But they're not protecting you. They're just taking it from you. I mean, the mafia calls it protection money, but protection from who? From the mafia? So it's pretty much the same thing. So basically, you're paying for their system to be operational. Trump now is ending all of this, and he had to show the people the truth. He just couldn't explain it to people because people wouldn't believe it. And actually, this is going to go much, much further than what we see in Minnesota, what we see in Ohio, what we see in California. And yes, the fraud is going to get much, much worse, especially in California. Actually, I think Trump is already letting us know that, yes, California fraud is going to be unbelievable. But as people see this and the word gets around, of course, a lot of the fake news outlets, they're not reporting on this, like MS Now, they're not really reporting on this. CBS is trying to cover it up, saying, hey, we just visited one of the sites and there were 4 kids there. But again, they were getting funding for 40. So you could see they're trying all different ways to try to cover all this up. But again, this is on a very grand scale. And this just is one little aspect of the fraud. This goes much, much deeper and wider. I mean, think about it. When you think about Ukraine, how much fraud and how much money has been shipped into Ukraine and laundered there? I mean, really, when you start to look at this and you start to see what's going on, you see that this is much, much bigger than anyone could ever imagine. And without people seeing it, they just wouldn't get it. And as time goes on, people are going to see more and more as time goes on. And this is going to allow Trump to unleash hell on the deep state in 2026. Remember, we're moving towards the midterms right now, and Trump is going to show everyone, look how corrupt the D's are. Look how corrupt the fake news is. Look at all these lower level governments who are protecting the fraud. Remember, the deep state players, what do? They are, number one, they're criminals. Number two, they protect the criminals. Number three, they protect the fraud. Actually, they protect everything except the U.S. citizen. So this tells you everything you need to know. And plus, Trump is now building the case to denaturalize those people that have become citizens in this country. And yes, it can be done. Those people that have been born a citizen in this country, no, that is not possible. But those individuals that have become a citizen, well, they can go through the denaturalization process and they could be removed from this country. And I do believe Trump, what he's doing right now, he's setting up the entire narrative for that. Because a lot of people say, well, what about all those people that they made citizens? How do we get rid of them? Well, I think Trump just is now showing everyone exactly how these people will be removed. And we'll be talking a lot more about this and how Trump is going to unleash hell on the deep state players. But first, let's go out to California. We know there's a lot of fraud out in California. And you could see that they don't want their fraud system to end. And every time they try to do something, well, it looks like the new administration is actually calling them out on it. Right now, California, they're saying that they're granting extensions on CDL cancellations following the lawsuit. But again, there is no extension whatsoever. Secretary Sean Duffy explains Gavin Newsom is lying. The deadline to revoke illegal issued unvetted foreign trucker licenses is still January 5th. California does not have an extension to keep breaking the law and putting Americans at risk on the roads. Miss the deadline, Gavin, and the U.S. Department of Transportation will act, including cutting nearly $160 million in federal funding. I think in the end of all of this, I think what needs to happen is we need to cut all the funds and shut down all the illegals coming into this country. We need to check each one of these individuals, even if they become a citizen, because are they committing crimes here? Have they come to this country and just taken from the people of this country? Because actually they're setting up a case of denaturalization and they'll go through the process. So I think at this point in time, which we'll be discussing a little bit later, I think everything should be shut down and we need to basically go through everything. But I think what Trump and the team are waiting for is they want more fraud to be exposed. They just don't want the daycare centers. They just don't want the Medicaid.
Right.
They want much, much more fraud to be exposed. So this way we could say, we're shutting everything down. It looks like it's one gigantic criminal syndicate. Looks like one gigantic money laundering operation. Let's shut everything down and let's track where all this money is going. And let's see what has been happening here. Because again, once you shut down the funding, their base of operation completely and utterly implodes. We'll be talking a lot more about this a little bit later. But first,
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause this here. And I want to, when they talk about not providing $160 million, which, is a drop in the bucket with the fraud, unbelievable, $160 million of highway funding to California. Okay, that is possible that the government, the states pretty much have their own laws, but the government can persuade the states to do certain things. Now, when I was about 17, 18 years old, back around 1970, 71, the federal government decided that the interstate speed limit should be 55 miles an hour. Okay? It might have been a little bit later than that. So the states, of course, have their own speed limit laws, pretty much. I mean, here in Indiana, which I think is utterly stupid, it's 70 miles an hour for cars and 65 miles an hour for trucks. So, you can cause a backup because truck's only going 65 miles an hour and another truck wants to pass him and he's going like 68. Well, it takes him a year to get past the truck, it seems like, for the cars to do 70 miles an hour. So cars get backed up behind semi-truck trying to pass another semi-truck doing 65 miles an hour. But whatever. But back in the 70s, the federal government decided to lower the speed limit across the nation to 55 miles an hour. Now, you could go ahead in your state and lower it to 55 miles an hour or not. But if you didn't, you wouldn't get any federal funding for your highways. It's as simple as that. Same thing happened with voting. They reduced it to 18 years old. The federal government decided that they wanted to do that. And in Ohio and in Illinois, when you were 18 years old, I used to do this all the time, drive over to Ohio because I lived in southeastern Indiana, Milan, Indiana, incidentally, won the state championship in 1953, the smallest high school to ever win the state championship ever. In fact, Milan Community School had 350 students from kindergarten to 12th grade. It was the smallest school to ever win the state championship in Indiana. And they still talk about that here in Indiana. But at any rate, living in Milan, it was like 25, 30 miles to Ohio. I would drive over to Ohio with my buddies at 18 years old and buy 3.2% beer. Normally beer is 6%. But the federal government decided, no, we're not going to do that anymore. You have to be 21, regardless. Whether it's wine or whether it's 3.2% beer. And you could vote at age 18. They could do it if they wanted to. But if they didn't want to change that, their laws to not allow people to drink until they were 21, you wouldn't get any federal funding for your highways. So all the states did that. So there you have it on that. This is something that can be done. Let me go ahead and click on this Rumble link just to give you a little background history on what's going on. Okay, and I will share the rest of this video in my daily news wrap-up tonight. Okay, as well as the Awaken with JP video. But clicking over here on the Rumble link, this video does come from X22 Report. I'm following the channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back here. And hey, Kevin20886 gave me a chat, so thank you very much, Kevin. Anybody else out there want to give me a chat? I'd greatly appreciate it. Got 22 people watching. I only need about 13 more chats, 12 more chats to get my requirement for this month. But let's slide down here and see what Wendy Bell has to say on Happy New Scam. Now, if you've been listening to me or watching Wendy Bell, she's been kind of fired up these last week and a half or so. And today is not any different. We're going to take off right after she does her Pledge of Allegiance. And she's a tad bit hot under the collar. So let's go ahead and take a listen.
Those things that we don't often talk about, it's not sexy. It doesn't get people's gears grinding that much. We kind of all just accept it and say, you know, it's part of the system. It's the way it goes until something happens and some guy knocks on some doors and awakens some people to the reality that the money that we are all sacrificing, working hard to give back to this government is being stolen. It's being squandered. It's being sent to other countries. It's going to different things. It's not going to our roads. It's not going to our bridges. It sure as hell isn't going to our kids in the form of education. And now you've got this universal cry of what the hell is going on? One guy, Nick Shirley, manages to plow through every class decision or distinction, right? Every racial barrier, everything about us that separates us, because at the end of the day, we are but one color, and that is green when it comes to money. How is it possible that one YouTuber, one young man, can awaken an entire country? Well, it happened, ladies and gentlemen. This is exciting time. A very exciting time to talk about how much your privilege is going out to your government to leave you hanging out in the cold. All right, so let's think about this. As we discover the Somalians ripping us off for billions and billions of dollars, what percentage of the population do you think pays what percentage of federal income tax? Well, I did some digging. White taxpayers, about 59%, pay between 70 and 75% of the federal income tax. So more than half of all white people out there working right now, we pay about 70 to 75% of the taxes. If you're Hispanic, you represent 19% of the taxes being paid or the people paying them, and you pay about 10 to 12%. Blacks pay about 6 to 8%, Asians about 8 to 10%, others a couple percent. I'm wondering where my white privilege is coming in. Anybody out there looking for it? Looking for the benefit of being you, the benefit of getting up every day and going to a job, the benefit of not showing up late, of doing what needs to be done, of thinking outside of the box, of providing for your family, only for, at the end of the day, for you to give up probably between 40 and 60% in taxes. For what? I ask you. What are we paying for? Are you guys paying for wonderful infrastructure? How are your roads and bridges? Because I could tell you in my neck of the woods, in the land before time in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, we had a bridge collapse in my neighborhood just a few years ago. Poof, down it went. Cars, buses, trucks on it, everything. Bye-bye. I can tell you that the deer carcass that decayed and crumbled to dust took 16 months. Here on the overpass on my way home from work every day. Nobody came to pick it up. All of the garbage on the side of the highway, all of the roadkill that we get to watch like a disgusting science experiment as it all kind of decays there for you. My taxpayer dollars isn't going to, of course, clean that stuff up. What else do you pay? Well, you pay state tax, you pay local tax, you pay excise taxes, you spend federal income tax, Social Security and Medicare tax, property taxes, of course, the hidden taxes embedded throughout the supply chain that we all pay, sales taxes, payroll taxes, excise taxes, regulatory taxes, tariffs, import duties, and of course, the hidden tax called inflation, right? How about somebody making $70,000 a year, full-time worker in this country? What percentage of their money earned do you believe goes to taxes? You ready for this? Between 40 and 60%. What the hell are we getting? What do we get? Do we get responsive government? Do we have government that listens to us and acts on our behalf? Or do we get government that decides to do what it does? Insider trade, enrich itself. There was a reason, ladies and gentlemen, back in March. 26 Senate Republicans voted down Rand Paul's bill to codify the Doge cuts into law. It would have stopped all of the funding to PBS and NPR and all of that garbage. It also would have stopped money going to USAID. Why did 26 Republican senators kibosh that? Got to ask yourself things that make you go, If our taxes were actually working, we'd have the best education system in the country, would we not? We would have children who were at the top of the game, not those who were completely functionally illiterate, in a system that allows them to continue failing upwards because it's easier than hitting the brakes and saying, Houston, we have failed a generation of children. We've got to figure it out. If our taxes were actually worth a crap, what else would we have? We'd have a healthcare system that didn't need constant government intervention. We'd have doctors who were able to tend to the sick, doctors who could think outside the box. We'd have pharma getting the hell out of our decisions, would we not? If we had a tax structure that worked, ladies and gentlemen, would we pay every single year for the privilege of living on the land that we've paid for after our mortgages have been fulfilled? We wouldn't, would we? If we had a tax structure that worked in a government that was efficient, none of these things that are going on would be going on. And so what do we have? A universal cry for help, for reform, and a call for Americans to refuse to pay. Isn't that interesting? One guy who the media are now going after, who are doxing him, who have called his little sister to harass him. People who are now getting out of their cars in the middle of the street in Minneapolis to lunge after Nick Shirley, not because he did anything wrong, but because he did everything right. He asked questions, and he shared with all of us the truth in your face. And they're still getting away with it. On this New Year's Day, we have a lot of planning to do, don't we? You're going to have black people, white people, rich people, poor people, Jews, Catholics, Muslims. It is the universal color that unites us. The ability of men and women, parents, if they so choose, to go out and work hard, to provide for their families, to save for the future, to think about a vacation, to squirrel for retirement, maybe to pay for tuition. They take that from you. We have a generation of young people right now, my friends, and I have 5 of them in my household who have no faith in the American dream. Why should they? Why would you get up and work? Why would you get up and do the right thing when it seems doing the wrong thing always manages to escape punishment? Where are the punishments? Where are the arrests for the people who lied under oath? Where is that? Where are the arrests for the people who've lied on their mortgages, who've defrauded the system? How about the punishments for the people who've lied about being American citizens? I can think of one right now who happens to be a sitting United States Congresswoman. Where are the penalties? What is the punishment? Why do we always wake up and do the right thing? Because right now, I'm feeling really stupid about doing that. I'm going to share a little tidbit with you. One of my estimated taxes this year, estimated, just before I bend over in April and get the final tally, was $40,000. Now, you can say, wow, that must mean you're doing really well. Or that must mean, wow, you're in the tax bracket that gets boned the most. For what? For an ineffective government that spins in circles? For what? People in other countries to get rich and fund terror cells? For what? For $40 million a week of our money to go to the Taliban? For what? For you and me to work hard. So the doors of this great country are open. And freebies are given to those who don't deserve it, who then spit in our face and steal from us. This might, in fact, be the great American uniter. One 23-year-old young man, the left wants to call him MAGA. They want to call him conservative. We'll just call him honest. And isn't that refreshing for a change? When we come back on the Wendy Bell radio program, TikToker, why do we do the right thing all the time? She asks it. What a great question. As an absolute nut job liberal, shows you what we're really up against. Next on the Wendy Bell Radio Network.
Okay, now, I just want to talk about this for a little bit. Nick Shirley, okay, they're calling him MAGA, a MAGA supporter, a conservative. And he's getting attacked. Okay, do you think it is conservative people that are attacking him? Do you think that it's MAGA people that are attacking him? No, it's liberal people that are attacking him. Democrats that are attacking him. Doesn't that make sense? Yet the Democrats are always the ones that claim that the MAGA people and the conservative people are the extremists and the violent people. Well, why is it for the past forever seems like that anything that violent that happens is a person that is liberal or is supported by liberals? What? I'm confused here. I mean, the liberals are the ones that say that me and you that are watching this, I assume that you're, kind of on the conservative side. Why is it that they say that we are the ones that are dangerous? We are the ones that's trying to destroy their democracy. Okay? I'd like to know what their definition of their democracy is. I don't know. Let me know what you think, folks, but it seems awfully strange to me that we're the ones that's getting accused of all the violence and the terrorism. I don't know. Let me know what you think.
100.
It's my
Welcome back to the Wendy Bell radio program. It's like we've had this great American factory reset, right? Like we've had all of these status updates. Please click here to update, right? And you do, and then, oh, there goes more fraud, waste, and abuse. Here's another update. Oh, more corruption, more dirtbags, more scum, right? We just hit a factory reset. Nick Shirley going out in Minneapolis and knocking on doors and putting together a video and showing everyone, showing hundreds of millions of people, showing people around the world what has been going on in one microcosm of this country has not only illuminated how ridiculously unnecessary your legacy news is, how abjectly biased, disgustingly slanted, and how perversely hateful they are of anybody on the right who dares ask questions or tell the truth. That's an extremist. No, you're a freak. We want the truth. There's a difference. Not only has Nick Shirley managed to expose the fraud that is the media, he's erased all of these ridiculous lines that divide us. Because at the end of the day, what do you want? More of the money that you work hard to earn in your pocket? What do you want? You want to be in charge, not somebody else. One kid started all that, and there's no coming back from that. I want you to hear this woman. She's sitting in her car. I think she's sitting in her. No, this is the woman who's like, look, I tell you what, I do the right thing, and I got to ask myself, why do I do the right thing? We're told the golden rule, right? Do unto others. Always do the right thing because it is the right thing to do. But where's the payoff? Where's the incentive? Where's that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow? When the people who lie and cheat and steal and do all of this crap to us never freaking get punished. Why should I do everything right? Good question.
I want to talk about how the average American is starting to feel as major corruption is being exposed, especially now with the case in Minnesota and the daycare fraud. This is not just about money being stolen anymore. It's about a growing feeling that being a good citizen, being a hardworking person, paying your taxes may not be worth it. People are starting to feel stupid. They think, well, I'm here, I'm playing by the rules, I am working hard, I'm providing for my family, I'm doing the hard work, and I'm the idiot. You see the memes online and we laugh, like, oh, me on my way to work, thinking that I should have just opened a daycare center in Minnesota and made millions. And again, it is funny, but it's also deeply sad because the next thing is, why am I even doing this? And that's the part that no one wants to talk about because this kind of feeling shapes culture. I come from Brazil, as you know, and in Brazil, we have this thing we call the Brazilian way, which is the idea that there's always a shortcut. There's always a loophole, a way to take advantage of a situation. And people think it comes out of nowhere. Oh, it's just the Brazilian way of living. No, this comes from years of Brazilian people being robbed and nothing being done with the thieves. So we now think that survival means cheating the system before it cheats you. Eventually, people stop believing that being honest is rewarded. When a society teaches its citizens that being honest makes you a loser, well, that's really dangerous. You don't just lose money. You lose trust. You lose dignity. You lose the culture that holds it all together. And once that's gone, it's really hard to get back.
It's gone. You guys, it's not on the way gone. It's not sort of gone. It's not like on a train pulling out gone. It's freaking gone. I don't trust anybody. I don't trust doctors. I don't trust lawyers. I don't trust politicians. I trust nobody in the media. I don't trust teachers. I don't trust accountants. I trust nobody. Nobody. They did that to us. And Brock has scrambled, and we're going to play it for you. We don't have to do it right now. We're going to play it for you here in just a minute. He found something. Tony DeCopel from CBS with the mea culpa. Oh, my gosh. It appears we've lost your trust. Hello? Really? And then there are those who will not be saved, who believe the propaganda. Like this woman. She's a total nutbag. This is why white college-educated liberal chicks in America are the scourge of our society. She says, you know what? More people need to be mean to Nick Shirley. Really?
So I took a deep dive to find out who Nick Shirley is. And let me tell you, 23-year-old Mormon from Utah, never went to college, never went to journalism school, never even took a journalism class. But you know what he did do? He went to prom with his mom during the pandemic. And you know what? The more I see about the relationship with him and his mom is a snowplow mom. She's the type of mom that just gets in front of him and plows away any hurdles. My son's great. My son's great. So now your son is experiencing some accountability because he was defaming businesses when he had no grounds to stand on. He wasn't a journalist. He wasn't a reporter. You can't just walk up to the school and be like, how many kids are here? Let me see the kids. No, you're a grown-ass man who's now going to have consequences for defamation. And the mom is up there, stop being mean to my son. No, you know what? Maybe if more people were mean to him, he wouldn't be in the position he's in right now. Be mean.
Can you believe it?
Didn't we just talk about that? Liberals? How they're always so violently aggressive? Just to let you know, folks, I never took a journalism class. Okay, I'm not a journalist. I'm just sharing the news with you. And that's what Nick was doing. He was just sharing information that he found out about. Actually, I saw a video today where the guy that he was working with in those videos, this guy has been doing years upon years of research on this, and he's got, stacks of documentation on the fraud that's going on, and he just kind of hooked up with Nick Shirley. He's going to have another video coming out, and Wendy's going to talk about it here. And this video is going to be in my daily news wrap-up, and she's going to go through that information. So here we go.
Yeah,
Let's finish up on this.
We've watched the decay, the rot of the American woman. What happened to these people? Be mean to the young man who exposed your money being stolen every single day. Got it. Ladies and gentlemen, we have so much to talk about today. And when we come back on the Wendy Bell radio program, Nick sits down with Patrick Bet-David to talk about the reaction he's gotten on the streets of Minneapolis, how he's been doxxed, his own sister harassed, and what's coming next. It's going to piss these people off even more. Next on the Wendy Bell Radio Network.
I tell you, I love her delivery. I mean, everything she says is totally serious, but her delivery, I don't know if you can, you saw me, laughing, but, I trust everything she says. It's just her delivery. I wish I could have the delivery like that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause this here, and we're going to take up right where we left off in my daily news wrap-up. So let me go ahead and click on the Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Wendy Bell Radio. I'm following the channel. I've given her a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back here. Let me close out the chat. Got another chat here from Linda. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you, Linda. Thank you. Okay, let's slide down here and let me remind you, folks, that these videos that I share with you are videos that come directly from the producer's channel. I've got the links to the videos that I shared with you and also the links to the channels where the producer resides. I don't get any commissions or royalties for doing this, but I think it's important to put together different perspectives of information, give you a little different information, although Nick Shirley has been, and the fraud in Minnesota has been, kind of top of the list here lately, wherever you go. And I've been sharing that with you. But that's what I do here. I try to put out no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth, and hope that you will share this with others so that people can be aware of what's actually going on. They won't have to rely on the lying legacy deep state media for their information. And these 4 videos that I shared with you are videos that I've posted here on Murtech.com. Right there's the video from ACLJ Sekulow. Right here's the video from Awaken With JP. Right down here's the videos from X22 Report and Wendy Bell. And I'll be sharing this information, as I said earlier on my daily news wrap-up. Let's jump over here and show you. Here's my playlist. Got 17 videos in it at this point. Wendy Bell, X22 Report, Awaken with JP, and we'll start off right where we left off. Also some information from McWater's Effect. Who goes to jail? Scott Jennings demands accountability on CNN. Operation Freedom with Dr. Dave Janda. Black Conservative Perspective. Greg Hunter in USA Watchdog with Martin Armstrong. Very good information here, folks, but go ahead and take a break. Grab a cup of coffee and a donut, or a sandwich and a soft drink or a beer, and meet me back here at 9:30. Give me time to get my playlist, make sure it's set up correctly, and get into my Rumble studio and get that started. And we'll get back here and get this going. Okay, we got another chat here from Red Pill Inn. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, there we go. All right, let me go ahead and copy the live chat. I like to do that as well, because when this live stream is over, that live chat just kind of vaporizes into hyperspace or something, cyberspace. But there we go. All right, we've got that permanent now. And this, here again, folks, this is how you do a comment. You just put some information in that little comment box and click this green button. Now watch. Watch, this is really cool. Whoa, how it was green and then just kind of fades away, and now it's permanent. Okay, so there we go. All right. Again, there we go. I made that comment. Right down here. Here we go. Okay, very good. So, get back over here, and let me remind you folks that this will be starting at 9:30. And I do want to thank you for being with me. I appreciate you spending your time with me this evening. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again later, and may God bless.